Imagine, demand, and build a world transformed.
Right, hello everybody. Welcome to our session on banner making. Please feel free to use the chat to post where you're from and to say hi, and also later on to post questions. The music that you are listening to is from the Ferry Hill Colliery Band, playing at the Miners' Gala, or Gala, depending where you're from. It sees that annual event sees, I don't know, hundreds. It seems like hundreds of colliery bands playing. It's fantastic. Just on housekeeping, Otter is on if anybody needs captions. So if you go to the left of your screen and click, then that should be all right. If you have a problem, please let Sam know. Sam is on tech. He's waving at you now. And if Sam can take over letting people in, that would be marvellous. So just to carry on with the housekeeping, I'm Penny Grennan. I'm from Tyndale Transformed, which is a regional group up in the northeast of the World Transformed. So it's great to be here to have this session where we're going to hear about the amazing Women's Banner Group from County Durham. And if you have a look at the top of your screen, we've got Samantha, Lynn and Laura, who are going to be telling us about what they've been up to, and it gives us an opportunity really where they can share their experience and knowledge, and hopefully it will be able to inform our own local activism. So just to give you a bit of an overview of the session, firstly we're going to hear from the Women's Banner Group, and there'll be an opportunity to ask questions, and then we're going to go into breakout rooms, and because you might want to discuss with people how this might apply to your area. Because I think that I would be right in saying that the Women's Banner Group process is all about community organising, and is a fantastic example of it. And I'll remind you of these options as we go along. So final thing to say before we get started. So as always, please follow the World Transformed guidelines for discussion. So be respectful. If we disagree, we do it kindly and respectfully. Be open to new ideas. Please give short answers, because as ever, we're always short of time. If you've been talking a lot, please step up and step back. And we have to say that bigotry will always be called out. So, once again, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. And let's start talking about banner making. So the Women's Banner Group was formed in 2017 with a mission to recognise and celebrate the achievements of women within trade unions, politics and communities, with particular recognition for the historically important women of the Durham Coalfield, who history had forgotten. The Women's Banner Group used community engagement, education, history and creativity to promote equality, fairness, recognition and camaraderie. I'd like to introduce the speakers, and I'll introduce them all one after the other, i.e. now, because they're going to alternate chronologically. So first of all, if you'd like to wave, we have Laura, who is the founder of the Women's Banner Group, campaigns coordinator for Sedgefield Constituency Labour Party, trade union activist and co-founder of Socialist Think Tank, a media channel that aims to normalise the ideas of socialism and promote its message around the communities in the north. As a mam of two, a full-time trade union worker and political activist, she is famously always on the go and hopes to use the platform she has developed to give voices to those who need it most. Next we have Lynn, who is the constituency secretary for Bishop Auckland, home of the Dominic Cummings eye test. I see you've got your glasses on, Lynn, that's great. And co-founder of the Women's Banner Group. Her interest in the group arose from being able to combine her long-time mining heritage passion, her lifelong attendance at Durham Big Meeting, which is the Miners' Gala, for those of you who don't know, and her longing for women's equality and recognition. And thirdly, we have Samantha, who is the Vice Chair membership for Bishop Auckland constituency. A town councillor, a carer, a social entrepreneur, and probably North East politics' most prolific social media volunteer. You can often find her working on digital campaigns and offering tech support to our Metro mayors, councillors and CLPs. And as a passionate feminist, it was only a matter of time before she got involved with the Women's Banner Group to help them spread their message far and wide. So I'd like to hand over to the Women's Banner Group speakers. Thank you very much.
Right then. Oh, that's me. Right then, Laura.
That's me, yes. Yeah. First of all, I just want to say a huge thank you to you guys for inviting us to come along and speak to you today. We're really honoured to be here. It's obviously a massive event. And we hope you enjoy just hearing a little bit about us. It's strange to be invited to something like this because we started so small and got quite big very quickly. So thanks very much, and we'll hope you get something out of it, to be honest. So I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about how we started and a little bit of sort of the background to the group. I've always been sort of interested in trade unionism and politics. I have been to the Durham Miners Gala many times, not as many as Lynn, who I think has been going since she was in her mum's womb. But I did tend to go with my husband Paul, who was heavily involved in trade unionism as well. And it was always lovely. It was always a really wonderful event. But it wasn't until I became Women's Officer for Sedgefield back in 2017 that I started to really sort of get more aware of women's issues and how little our voices get heard in certain arenas. And sort of shortly after that, I was invited to a meeting. In fact, somebody rang me on the day and said, "Can you get to Redhill? There's a meeting happening. You need to be at right now." So I was like, okay, I knew nothing about it. And I walked in and it was a meeting. It turned out to be a meeting about restarting the Women's Gala up here in County Durham. Now, the Women's Gala hasn't actually occurred since, I think the last one was in the 70s. It started in the 1920s. It was an offshoot of the Durham Miners Gala, where women would get together and march banners and a similar sort of thing. And it was a lovely idea, really, really wonderful. But then I thought, well, you know, in this day and age, surely we shouldn't have offshoot events. We should be involved within the Durham Miners Gala itself. And women have been involved in the Durham Miners Gala. There's always been women's sections and things like that, but there's never been sort of a dedicated group that is for women and the achievements of women and recognising what women have done throughout mining communities. And that sort of didn't sit right with me for a while. And so I decided to do something about it. Luckily, I had the pleasure of already knowing a lady called Heather Wood, who I think might be on this chat somewhere. If you are, hello Heather, who, if you are from the Northeast or know anyone from the Northeast, chances are you've heard of Heather Wood and her mother Myrtle, who are just huge political powers here in the Northeast. And they've, you know, they basically set up the free cafes during the miners' strikes, supported communities all across the Northeast, just incredible. And it's stuff like that I thought, well, hang on a second, if this doesn't get remembered now, eventually it's just going to fall out of history. And the sheer fact that these women genuinely saved lives throughout a really, really difficult time certainly should have been remembered. So that's kind of where the whole idea started. Then I had a conversation with our quilter, who I did not know was a quilter at the time, Mary Turner. We were in a pub at a goodbye party to one of our comrades who was leaving for the Sudan, I think. And I started chatting to Mary about this idea I had and how I want a banner group and how I'd like to start one and build a banner and create a banner. And it was actually Mary who came up with the idea of doing a quilted banner, one that would be sort of community focused. We could get women's groups from all over County Durham to get involved so that it was building collectivism, building a community. And I was like, okay, well, you're signed up then. She didn't get a choice. So I held, I basically put a call out, said anybody who's interested in this, come and have a chat and we'll see where we take it from here. So we had a meeting. It was the first time I'd officially ever met Lynn, which is so strange because I feel like I've known her forever now. And thank God she's a member of this group. She keeps me right. And yeah, so it all went from there really, and it just sort of built and expanded, and we wanted to sort of create that community. And I would like to pass over to Samantha now, who's going to tell you a little bit about sort of where that community building and where the artwork went from there.
Thank you, Laura. So yeah, so then we moved on to the phase of the project where we know what we need to do. We need to represent women of the Durham Coalfields, and we're going to make some kind of banner, which is basically a giant quilt, because that's the skills that we've got available to us. And so I came on board to help create sort of a visual social media presence for the project and to reach out to different groups. So you can see a little bit of the actual finished banner in the top right hand corner there. You can see how it's made up. It's several patchwork pieces. Every little piece was put together by a group. You can see the Durham City Women's Forum doing their section in the bottom in the middle there. And basically, so loads of different groups, from a reading group to a singing group to the Waspy women, who are very close and dear to our hearts. And I can see Chris there. Hello, Chris. And she was involved in making that Waspy panel, which you can see in the top right there. Women associated with the university and a diverse women's group. So loads and loads of different groups who weren't all Labour Party groups, but they're all tangentially sympathetic or related to our politics, generally groups that sought to bring women together for one reason or another. So they all fit within this theme. And a lot of women, if we look at Barbara down the bottom left there, that we've got a film, and there's a lovely moment in the film where she holds up those little placards, because we had all of these women in this workmen's club making these placards, and she was like, I've never done anything like this in my whole life. And it's just so adorable. So we're upskilling these women, teaching them how to applique. The whole banner is made through the process of applique, which is basically using Bondaweb. If any of you have used that, which is basically an iron-on glue. You iron the Bondaweb onto the fabric, you cut out your shape, and then you iron it back on the fabric to create the piece. So it's very, very low barrier to entry, and just to give these women a skill that they could take on quickly to create something. And teaching people, there's a photo down there of Lynn sewing. You know, Lynn is not a seamstress, but you know, we were able to help people do a little bit and expand their ability to participate in public art, which is what this is, and give them all ownership of it, to the point where, you know, you go from the picture at the top left where we're all figuring things out to the picture at the bottom right where every woman in that crowd has touched that banner as it was being made and feels part of it and has a huge sense of physical solidarity to what we are doing on that day. So really, really, really good from start to finish there. Lynn is next.
Thank you, Samantha. So as Laura mentioned earlier, we knew each other before that very first meeting where the Women's Banner Group formed, but we'd only ever met virtually. We'd never met face to face. And at the time that the group was formed in November 2017, I was at that time supporting, well, still am, supporting the Durham Miners Association on their advisory board for the National Heritage Lottery Fund application that they were recently awarded stage 1 in. Fantastic. And so I made links between the Women's Banner Group and the Durham Miners to get us affiliated as the first ever all-female banner group to the DMA, and also the first ever female banner to be blessed in the cathedral on Big Meeting Day, which are two huge historical events. And the two groups have mutually supported each other and continue to do so ever since then. Shortly after the group was formed, Red Hills announced a fundraising bid called Take Your Seat in the Pitman's Parliament. And if you haven't heard about it, Google it. Laura organised a crowdfunding page to organise and raise money for our group to sponsor a seat in the Pitman's Parliament, and we unanimously agreed to sponsor seat number 50, which was the Wingate Colliery delegate seat, which is the village where Laura lives. So next time you're there, if you ever get opportunity to visit Red Hills, the headquarters of the miners, take a look under seat number 50 and you'll see our lovely pit token. Sort of moving on from that, when we were planning the unveiling of our community banner in July 2018, we approached the DMA at Red Hills to ask if we could hold that event in the Pitman's Parliament. Our event was programmed as one of the fringe events in the week leading up to the big meeting that year. We were absolutely overjoyed that they agreed to take down all of the miners' banners in the building to allow us to put up 24, I think it was, historic banners, women's banners, that we'd found during our great banner hunt, which was something we put out in the press. Some of the banners were close to 100 years old. They were absolutely, truly beautiful. And this, again, was truly a historic event. We found Labour Party women's section banners that had been stored under beds, in suitcases, on top of wardrobes for decades, as well as women's banners from the miners' strike and general female activism over the decades. And it was amazing to see these beautiful pieces of artwork once again being displayed for everyone to see in the week leading up to the big meeting. On the day of the unveiling, we had many incredible female musicians performing short sets on the day, and the unveiling speeches was chaired by our patron, actress Charlie Hardwick, or matron as she prefers to be called. We also had women involved in the miners' strike play come and perform a scene from that play for us. Unfortunately for us, England had made it through to the semi-finals in the World Cup that day. They were playing, which meant attendance wasn't as high as it could or should have been, but we still had, you know, over at least easily over 100 people come to see the banner being unveiled before the march. And back to Samantha.
There we go. I did the thing where I tried to talk when I was muted, so we've checked that off the list of things that happen in a Zoom meeting, the gig, the unveiling, is all on YouTube if anybody wants to look it up under Red Hills Revolution. It was lovely. Yes. So then we had our first march, and every time, every opportunity, we invite people to join us. So at every stage, whenever we're doing something new, it's never this is our project, you can come and look at it. It's this is our project and you can come and be a part of it. So the first match was another one of those renewal points where we got some new people involved that weren't involved before, and that helped inform our second banner, which we'll come to later, which we've obviously all got behind us in our backgrounds. So we were really, really pleased to get different organisations to come and march with us. Of course, WASPI were involved in making the banner, and they did come and march with us. The County Durham teaching assistants came and marched with us, which is was a big thing locally. For those of you who don't know, County Durham, the teaching assistants are all employed by the local authority, and there was a dispute where they were basically told they were going to get sacked and rehired on inferior contracts. And they had a very grassroots female-led movement to deal with that, which is very inspiring. So they're definitely welcome to march with us any day. And we also had Action for Trans Health come and march with us, and we were really pleased as well that we had created a space where they felt safe and included in our movement, and trans people and non-binary people and men who are sensitive to the concerns of women are all welcome to march with us. We are very, very inclusive indeed. So really happy, and like I said, all of those people who came to march with us then helped inform what our future, how we seek to represent women. So very, very positive. Oh yes, and on top of that, we keep getting sort of recognition from actual Labour Party speakers, which is really good. On that day, we were rushing around all over the place because we had to get to the cathedral to get the banner blessed, and you're running around all over the place. And as we are running away from the field to get to the cathedral, Emily Thornberry worked our banner into her speech, and it really amazed all of us that it's been noticed, and our work continues to be noticed to this day by top flight Labour Party politicians. So we really appreciate that, of course. Is this you, Laura?
I'm doing the muty thing now. It's my turn. Yeah, so in the lead up to the first march at the Durham Miners Gala, we were in talks with Amber Films, and we commissioned them to do a documentary, just basically to keep a record of what we've done, because Heather who has, again, as I say, is heavily involved. She's part of the founding group of the banner group women. She's always saying, keep everything, remember everything, make sure you document everything. So we really wanted to make sure we've done that for our first march, and they followed us throughout the whole creation of the banner, actually, and then into the first march in 2018. So that film's called Of Whole Heart Cometh Hope, and it is available to buy, so we're going to plug that one for you. You can get it off our website or contact us on Facebook, and we can sort a copy out for you. But it was really successful, and sort of the fella who did the Dennis Skinner film, Dan Draper, had sort of heard about us, I believe, again through Heather's connections, and got in touch and asked if we'd be involved in a film that he was making, which was just huge. I mean, at the time, I think we all felt a little bit like we were really suffering with imposter syndrome at this point. We were like, this is our first march. Maybe you should, follow people who've been doing this for years and years and years. But they were really keen to tell the women's side of things. And as we were the only official women's group, and it was our first year, he thought it was important to sort of include that. So we were really honoured to do that. And we had sort of camera crews following us on the day. We were having interviews done. It was a really surreal day, to be honest with you, and it was really, really hot, and the cameramen were sweating, carrying all this huge equipment around the place, and yeah, it was really odd, but as I say, we were really privileged to be part of it. That film is called The Big Meeting, and it is available to buy as well. I suggest, if you're interested in the Durham Miners Gala at all, to buy that, because it really, somebody did a review on it that I thought was absolutely perfect, and it doesn't sort of tell you in great depth the history of all of the Durham miners or the event itself, but it does feel like it's just picked you up, plopped you right in the middle of the day, so you get that sense of enormity of it all, and it is wonderful. So yes, you can see more about us. You can see our first march in that as well, which was absolutely fantastic. We decided we wanted to screen our film as a special event on International Women's Day in 2019. We tend to hold big events on International Women's Day. I think our unveilings have both been on International Women's Day, and obviously the screening was as well. And for that, Emily Thornberry had said she'd love to come up and say a few words for that as well, which was, it was incredible. It was lovely to have her there, and she's a huge supporter of ours. But I actually think what was probably most important for us was that we asked women from the local communities to submit videos that we could share with people in the week leading up to that event. So we got absolutely tons of videos, just short clips from people explaining why they're involved in activism or political movements, or all different kinds of things that were important to them. We've got videos from politicians, community activists, and they're all available on our website and our Facebook to watch as well. And they were just beautiful, and it really just sort of highlighted how much we want to create a community of strong women who have something to say, and that really did happen in that week for me, and it was really something special. And the event itself was absolutely, Red Hills was packed out for it. It was absolutely fantastic. And we all sort of got up and did a little speech, then we screened the film, and then Emily was due to get up and do her speech, and she stopped me on the way up and she said, I've had to throw my speech away after that. She says, I can't add anything to that film and to the things these have said. So she threw her speech away, and instead of getting up and doing something really political, she actually got up and started talking about her upbringing and her relationship with her mother, which was just beautiful and really heartfelt. And it was sort of a side to Emily that we hadn't really got to know before. And it just sort of just brought the whole event together, and it was really beautiful. And as I say, it's something really, really special. And I think, who am I passing on to next? See, this is the problem with having two screens, isn't it? We're going to go over to Lynn now.
Okay, so obviously the purpose of the group originally was to have a presence for women, a safe space for women within the Miners' Gala. And not long after we formed, Samantha and I were taking part in our constituency fundraising treasure hunt, which saw us sort of drive about 70 miles around our constituency searching for clues. In Barnard Castle, we were sent hunting for blue plaques, and we very quickly noticed that all of the blue plaques were either related to men or buildings. So we did a Google search on County Durham blue plaques, and at that time, there wasn't a single blue plaque dedicated to a woman in the County Durham. So we discussed this in an event that we held as part of the People, Pits and Politics event in Durham in 2018. And came away and had a little think about how we could change this. And so in March 2019, we held a hustings in the Pitman's Parliament at Red Hills. Prior to the event, I'd spoken to Durham County Council and contacted local schools, put out a press release in the Northern Echo as well as on our social media platforms, sort of inviting people to submit a nomination for an inspirational woman who fit the Durham County Council criteria for a blue plaque. All of the nominations required a seconder, and each nominator was given the opportunity to speak on behalf of their woman on the stage in the magnificent Pitman's Parliament, which is a breathtaking experience, I can tell you. The event was co-hosted by the Remembering Resistance Project, led by Dr.
Hi, John. Hi.
Oh.
Hi, Rachel.
Sorry, just bear with me a second. I've got somebody else on another Zoom talking.
I can hear you, I can't see you.
Sorry, I'm just going to... I'm not quite sure how that's happened. There we go. Okay, sorry about that, guys. There was a recording I'd done earlier, and it started playing by itself once it was downloaded. So just going back to that, the Remembering Resistance Project, which was led by Dr. Sarah Marsden at Lancaster University, she actually contacted us to ask if we would do a joint event with them in relation to female activism over the decades. If you haven't heard of the project, again, Google it. I guarantee you'll find it interesting. Just prior to the event happening, I was actually made aware of a blue plaque, a female blue plaque that had been erected in Durham by the university where I have worked for the last 18 years. In February 2018 by Prince Charles for one of his ancestors, Dame Elizabeth Bowes. However, at the time, there was no mention of this in the university press, nor if you search female blue plaques in Durham, does it come up on an internet search. This was the first female blue plaque to be erected in Durham, and its unveiling went completely unnoticed, despite it being erected in the International Year of the Woman. Anyway, on the day of our hustings event, we heard speakers on behalf of many fantastic women, all deserved of a blue plaque in my opinion, but as the Women's Banner Group, we decided to, we agreed that we would submit the nomination with the most votes in the secret ballot to the council. After counting the ballots, however, the winner was the abolitionist, Elizabeth Peace Nichol, but we discovered that her hometown was Darlington, which whilst is in County Durham, is outside of Durham County Council area. So we had to recount the votes to see who came second, and it was a three-way tie. Kate Maxey, who was my nomination, who is one of the most decorated nurses from World War I, Bella Lawson and the Aycliffe Angels. We therefore submitted 3 nominations to the council in 2019, back in April. The plaque applications have all passed the council requirements and approval has been sought for the installation on the relevant buildings. However, COVID has obviously halted these installations, and we have been told that they are going ahead very soon, though with these new local lockdown restrictions, who knows when it's actually going to happen, but watch out for a press release once we know the dates. And then just moving on very quickly to another project that we were involved in. This was a school project, a primary school project called Let Them Be Heard. Last spring, about a dozen volunteers, including former teachers, supported us in the delivery of our first primary school project. The project was the brainchild, actually, of our silk banner painter, Emma Shankland, and together Emma and I wrote a successful funding bid to Northern Heartlands, who funded the project. The purpose of the project was to give young people an understanding of the historical significance of women in the North East, broaden their awareness and connection to the past, and encourage young people to express, debate, and voice their opinions in a creative environment. Given many women and children in County Durham come from lower socioeconomic backgrounds, we hoped to educate young people on their heritage, their vital role that women have played in their local communities, and what they can achieve politically. We championed gender parity for both local and national politics in our sessions and created a safe area where young people felt they could engage in a debate on a political issue. The kids in each school were split into groups to form the ministerial departments of education, welfare, environment, emergency services, healthcare and equalities. And they each had to pitch for £1 billion of funding from the Bank of England to help the UK recover after a fictitious disaster wiped out 60% of the population. They got to vote in a secret ballot for the 2 departments which they felt give the best pitch. And then all the kids thoroughly enjoyed coming up with creative ways in which their department would spend the money to help the country recover. Another aspect of the school session was that each child received a sort of a 6-inch square piece of hessian, and they were instructed to make a small proggy mat, or clippy mat as some of you may know it as, which is something which was commonly made in the Durham Coalfield by women in the 19th and early 20th centuries. The 6-inch pieces that they created were either black or white, and they were later added to a large piece of artwork in the culmination event at Red Hills. That event in June 2019 saw all the schools who were involved in the project come into Red Hills, which were about 130 kids and a dozen or so teachers, to A, put their piece of proggy mat onto the large-scale artwork, and B, receive some further education in groups on the history of the Miners' Hall, the life of families working in the coal mines in the 19th century, and mining conditions pre-nationalisation in 1947. And that was with special thanks to Durham Mining Museum and Education for Action, who supported us in running those sessions for the kids. The kids were so engaged in all the sessions, and they genuinely had a great afternoon. And back to Samantha.
Fab. I do have a very short video. It's a very low quality video, I'm afraid, because it's been downloaded and uploaded off every single type of social media available. A little video that illustrates the education project that we did as well.
Very common in a place like County Durham for voices to slip away and disappear, so not be given a safe place in which they can feel ownership and feel that they have a voice. And one of the things that this collective of kids within decided they wanted to do was create an education program which was going to empower women and young people and make sure that the underrepresented women Belfast have a voice.
And that was funded by Northern Heartlands, who do fantastic work. So then, because obviously we, as you can see, we don't stand still. Then we decided kind of our next project needed to be a proper banner. Not that our previous banner wasn't proper; it was its own piece of work, and it was a very valuable and important thing. But going back to what Laura said at the beginning, we didn't want a separate gala, big meeting. We didn't want a separate event. We wanted to take our space in the real event, and we didn't want a separate banner that's just stood on its own. We wanted to add to the cultural significance and heritage and artwork that were currently existing and currently used by all the other banners and all the other collieries and everything. So we wanted a proper silk banner, which was painted by that lady with the curly hair who was on that video there, who runs Durham Banner Makers. So we wanted a silk banner. So again, we came together in groups like we did at the start, and just kind of threw open to people, who do you want to be on the banner? What should the banner look like? Should it be ultra modern? Should it be really traditional? One of the things we noticed, like what Lynn was saying before about women's representation in things like blue plaques, women's representation on miners' banners is horrendous too. Most pictures of women on a miners' banner are abstract concepts of hope or justice or a nurse or somebody's mum. So we wanted some real named women from the Durham area who we could actually put portraits of, just like every most of the banners have portraits of significant men. So we came together, and again we went back and asked people to submit nominations, and we had votes and discussed those nominations, and in the end it was down to the artist really to figure out how to fit as many people on there as possible without it being overwhelming, and how to get both physical people and broader movements included, which I'll show you on the next slide. She did that very well. So we had our unveiling of that banner on International Women's Day this year, which was in March this year, and many of you will remember March this year. It was literally, this was just a few weeks before the whole world got turned off. And that's the picture on the bottom right there. That's our unveiling. Again, you can see we brought back a lot of those women's banners so that they could all be together and be a little exhibition there. So we managed to unveil our banner and get people to look at it, but unfortunately it has not yet been marched anywhere. It would have been to an event in Wakefield, and it would have obviously been to the Durham Miners Gala this year, both of which got cancelled. So here is the new silk banner, which is funded by National Lottery Heritage Fund. This is a serious piece of artwork. You're looking at £10,000 worth of art. You can see on the right, that's the front of the banner with all of these women, lots of women, and there is, if you go to our website, womensbannergroup.org, is it .org.uk? Yeah, we've got a downloadable PDF there which gives you all of the names of all of these women and all of their backgrounds. There were only a couple of women that we had to sort of bend our own rules on slightly and have as representations of more women or metaphors. As we mentioned before, the Aycliffe Angels were nominated for our blue plaque, so they're on there, but they were a munitions factory, so we've just got one woman representing all of them. And we did have to include a representation. You can see the child and the lady above her. We did have to have a representation of everybody's gran, because out of the masses of nominations we had for people to be on these banners, people rightly said, my gran, my nan, my mum, my auntie was a fantastic woman. She did X, Y, Z. And this is the unwritten sacrifice that a lot of women have put into making our history what it is. You know, they'll never be written around in history books, but if they weren't in the background doing what they did, then nobody else would have been able to do anything else. And obviously we've got our banner on there, and on the back of the banner we've got this image of this woman with these curtains, pushing them aside, walking into the County Durham sort of scenery, and there's loads of symbols on there expressing lots of different historical fights that women have taken part in, and that have been important to us, and again affirming the fact that we are LGBT inclusive and neurodiverse inclusive, and looking towards The struggles that we're having right now, like the Me Too movement, if this banner was painted today, it would have Black Lives Matter on it, you know. It does have an anti-apartheid symbol on it, Women Against Pit Closures, it's got Extinction Rebellion on there, so it's talking about historical as well as modern struggles and everything in between. So we're very, very proud of that, obviously, and we can't wait to actually be able to get out and march it. All right then, Lynn, Laura, yeah.
Yeah, just quickly, I think you sort of covered most of the things there. But we do, for the lead up to this International Women's Day, again, we asked for videos, and Samantha's just scrolling through there. You can see we got sent a load of videos of women in activism and what things mean there. And there's me suffering from COVID-19 with my curly face there. So past those ones. And they were really uplifting as well. And it was really lovely to see our community sort of growing and getting bigger. Our new banner at the moment is hanging up in Alan Margin's office in Red Hills, and it's been there for a long time. Thankfully, it is hanging up now. It's not folded up. But our community banner, I think we've sort of been using that to take around different communities, to show it, to tell our story really on what we've done, to women's groups all over. And what we really want to do is hang that, sort of give it a tour around women's groups and let people hang it in their community spaces for sort of a month or two, and move it around the place. Unfortunately, COVID has put paid to that, but we will be looking to do that once all this sort of dies down a little bit, which I hope it does. And Samantha was mentioning there about the nominations. We've taken nominations from day one, whether it was nominations of who should be represented on a banner, who we want to talk about at different events, things like that. So we still have that list of nominations. We asked for pictures to go with it as well. So we do have a lot of nominations, and the idea has always been to put those nominations and the sentiments that came with those nominations as to why these people should be recognised into a book. It seems to be every time we try and do it, we do something else that requires nominations, so we kind of, it's an ongoing project, but eventually we will be putting that book together, and I think it'll be full of really, really interesting and inspirational women. So we're looking forward to that as well. And speaking of future projects, I'm now going to pass over to Lynn.
Thanks, Laura. So a couple of future projects that we're hoping to get started as soon as we can. The first one is something, a project that we've long desired to do, but obviously it's been put on back burner due to many of our other projects that we've been involved in, is to get a female statue erected in County Durham. As you can guess, there are currently none. And once COVID restrictions are lifted and we're able to once again hold public meetings, we will again be contacting the public through our mail list, through social media, press releases, and invite people to a session where we will debate the type of statue that we want, whether it be a particular woman or representative of women who were activists, for example, in the miners' strike or at Green and Common. And we'll also be discussing funding options, the design, female sculptors, location, etc. And as always, any decision made on our project will be by collective response and a vote to ensure the voices of everyone involved in the process gets to put their suggestions forward. And just looking at those lovely pictures there to the right, we were approached earlier this year to ask if we would be interested in being involved in a couple of plays that a local playwright called Ed Woff has written. He was hoping our contacts and sort of prominence locally could help him to find stories and artefacts related to his plays, as well as use our banners within them. The first play is a made-up play about the munitionettes during World War I, which is all about their work conditions and football. I'm not sure if anyone here knows, but did you know that during World War I, men's competitive football was suspended and women took to the pitch and drew in crowds of over 50,000 people? The second play will be a one-person show about Bella Ray. who was the top player in the Northeast during the First World War, and she played centre forward for Blythe Spartans and England, scoring 133 goals in one season, and that was in her team's unbeaten run of 30 matches to win the Munitionettes Cup. Despite the efforts of these amazing women, FIFA decided to ban women's football in its grounds in 1921, essentially outlawing the game in England for women. And unbelievably, that ban was not actually lifted until 1971. And back in 2008, FIFA finally issued an apology for the 21 ban. The play was due to be screened at the Gala Theatre in September this year, but unfortunately due to lockdown, it's been put back till next year. And we are meeting with Ed at the end of September to gauge how we would like us to get involved. So watch this space. And I'm going to hand over to Laura to wrap up.
Thanks, Lynn. Yeah, so it's funny, when we were sort of putting this presentation together, we were like, oh, well, we'll just sort of say, you know, we did the ban, we did this. And actually looking back on it all, just how much we've managed to achieve has just been pretty epic. And we shocked ourselves, actually. But it's certainly not something that the three of us have done. It has been a collective achievement. And if anybody does want to get involved with the Women's Banner Group, we don't have any sort of convoluted way to get involved. Basically tell us you want to be involved and we'll put you on the mailing list and you are a member of the Women's Banner Group. That's essentially it. We're very keen on people to come to us with things they'd like us to be involved in, any ideas they have that they'd like us to take forward. We still try, well, when COVID's done, we're still going to be going to take our banner to events like we go to with Banners Held High. We were hoping to get to Engage for Change in Hull this year. We go to as many Pride events as we can get to, and we take our community banner. Unfortunately, as Samantha said, our new silk banner has yet to be aired. So when that gets to happen, that'll be a really special event as well. And for anyone who's just sort of not sure about getting involved in activism, I'd like to go back to something Samantha was saying about Barbara, the lady with the placards. She had never done anything like this. She was a friend of Lynn's, and she wasn't particularly active. She then went on, after meeting WASPy women at some of our events, she went on to be one of the WASPy women in County Durham, and she went on all our marches. She's been on television, she's been down to London, she's done absolutely loads. Unfortunately, their judgment this week has been a devastating blow for them. I'm sure they'll keep fighting though, and they've got all of our solidarity and support on that. But it just goes to show that if you surround yourself with like-minded women, or even women who push you to do things you never thought you could do, and you have the support of a big group of women, you can achieve so much. We've just been blown away by the support we've had and the support we've been able to offer other people. I think we've been a true testament to what you can achieve when you get a load of women together. Women are pretty damn well organised, and we've sort of been proof of that. So thank you to every single person who's ever been involved in the Women's Banner Group, for everyone who came to watch us bleat on about it for an hour. And how long is it? An hour now? It seems to have flown over. And thank you again for having us. It's been lovely to be here.
Well, thank you. That's completely fantastic. Thank you so much, Laura, Lynn and Sam. And I think one of the things that, I mean, I know the Women's Banner Group and I've been to your events, but just that overview has totally revealed to me the things that you've exposed in terms of the marginalisation of women, the absolutely amazing thing that women can do when they get together. So if you think about where you started and where you are now, it's just grown and it's huge. All that solidarity, that friendship, that giving people a voice, that raising of issues has just been absolutely huge. And that's why when my introductory remarks, I said this exquisite example of community organising is absolutely marvellous. Thank you so much. Right, so we've got about 10 minutes for questions, and then we're going to make our participants do some work, which would just be great if I can get on the gallery. So if you would like to ask a question, could you put your...
I think our first sort of run-in I think I can put it as a word with someone who was particularly transphobic, was actually really polite. It was the People, Pits and Politics event, actually, and we were speaking at that. One of the women there had, long story short, she basically asked if she could come and march with us because she had a group of her own, and we were like, oh, well, wonderful, what's your group? And it turned out that it was an anti-trans group, and basically she wanted to come and march to say that trans women weren't women. And I was looking around the room and I could see people sort of getting redder and redder, and I was like, oh God, someone's going to kick off here. So basically I just said, look, first of all, you're quite brave to come into this room and speak to us so blatantly, and, you know, thank you for doing that. Unfortunately, our beliefs don't mesh. We have very, very different outlooks on this, and so I don't think it would be appropriate for you to march with us. And with that, off she went, and it was from that moment that we thought, right, we need to be visible on this issue. We need to show that we are inclusive, and we do believe that trans women are women, and trans men are men as well, but obviously as a women's group we focused heavily on that side of things. So that's when Lynn approached. She sort of has contacts with sort of trans groups in the area, and asked them outright, please can you come and march with us on Gala Day, because we want to show that this is where we stand, and we're proud of that. We're not going to back away from that. And obviously we've got the trans symbol on our new banner as well. So I think just sort of, I'm not one for shutting down debate, and I do believe that you need to listen to all sides of the argument. If you do need to talk to people, you need to listen to concerns, but you can do that reasonably. I think most of us here, certainly Lynn and Samantha, are very much of the mind that this isn't a debate to be had. Just let people be who they want to be. And so we don't shut down argument, but we just very clearly plant our flag and say, this is where we are. So that's kind of what we've done, our approach.
Great, thank you. Thank you very much. Is there another question before we get you to do some work? Okay. Oh, where's Charlie?
Hi.
Charlie, do you want to ask a question?
I just wanted to say, not a question, but just how inspiring this has been. You are amazing, and I'm an artist, so just seeing like all the stuff that you've done, it's really inspiring. I'm part of a local transformed group, and it's just giving me loads of ideas, and yeah, thank you so much for sharing this.
Great, lovely, thank you. So what we thought would be nice now is, because it has been so inspirational, and also what this talk has done has outlined what the possibilities are. They're huge. And especially at the moment when things are rough and going to get rougher, we've got to think about those possibilities. Is that we would go into, I think probably how many? Two breakout rooms, and just talk about what sort of issues you've got in your area where you think that a project like this might have some sort of traction, and then we'll come back and talk about it, because I think it's always good to articulate these ideas, not keep them to ourselves. So Sam is going to send us somewhere, and if we can be back for 15 minutes. And what I'd like you to do is just have a conversation, because there aren't a huge number of us now, but just talk about the sorts of things where a banner making project might work and what it might lead to. I think that would be really interesting. Okay, thank you, Sam. Okay, is everybody back? Sam, yes? Lovely, thank you. Right, that was really, really good. We had a great chat in our breakout room. I was wondering, so we've only got 2 breakout rooms. Would anybody from the other breakout room, I can't remember what number I was in, anybody like to give a bit of feedback on what you talked about?
Lynn's nominating me. Which goes back to something I said about in our other room about how rubbish we are at talking. Like, it's totally been bred out of us to talk confidently in a group of people, hasn't it? And you'll be talking passionately about something and then apologise and try and be as small as possible. See, Laura's laughing because she does it all the time. So we talked a little bit about different cultural phenomenon that happen around where we live. Gail lives in Burnley, which is obviously got its own working class marching banners, cloth industry past, so that's really good. And she's given us another event we have to go to, Laura, so
okay,
we'll look at that.
good to know.
And yeah, we were talking about how the banner is a living piece of art. Like, now we've had it made, we have this process of destroying it by taking it out marching. And Sabrina made a lovely point just at the end there, that it's very much, it's kind of like aging, and like being a person, like being a human. As you get older, you get wrinkles, and it's all part of your part of the beauty of time passing. And we certainly will find that with our banner as it gets marched and gets scratched and gets marked and things, no matter how best we try and look after it, which we will. And yeah, and we were just talking about how more on that subject of women in public art being totally glossed over. Sabrina's background is in journalism, and writing things down is where this all starts. Finding the stories of these women has been very difficult because the stories weren't written down at the time, and it's all very retrospective and trying to fit pieces of jigsaws together. And we can be certain that women did do fantastic things. Whether it was thought about as important enough to write down, or whether a man just decided he was going to take credit for it is another thing. We've talked about that before, Laura, haven't we? So it was all about that kind of thing. So yeah, it was really nice. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Samantha. So who would like to feedback from our group? Anybody rushing to do it? Okay, I'll do it then. Okay, so we had a nice geographical spread, actually. So there was High Barnet, Cambridge, Trafford, County Durham, Bristol and Hexham. So all over the country. So we talked about a couple of projects. One is High Barnet is looking at different ways of engaging people because they've started their own transform group. So that was really good. There's an interesting project in Cambridge called So Angry, which is great. So we had a discussion about how this might apply and how you go about it, and also we did have continued the chat about the trans issue. And I think that's something that I feel is really important about something like this is the way that the Women's Banner Group engaged groups who already had their own focus and their own interest on things. So you weren't trying to shoehorn groups into what you wanted them to do. You were actually saying, we want to do this. Would you like to do this in your own way? And for me, I mean, my background is in community development and community work, and I'm a political activist, that's the key thing. If it's not important to participants, then they're not going to do it. And so that's where the Labour Party went wrong. So we have to listen to our women and listen to everybody really, but particularly women. And to me, the Women's Banner Group totally encapsulated that process. So just before we wrap up, has anybody got anything else that they would like to say about anything really? No? Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much to the Women's Banner Group, and thank you for staying and participating. I'd really like to thank Laura and Lynn and Samantha. This is just, the story is so heartening and exciting and ongoing, and just such a good example of how one idea can spawn something huge. and you will go down in history whether you like it or not, which is just great. And if anybody goes to Durham, go to Red Hills. It's absolutely exquisite. It's wonderful.
And if anybody comes the next time the gala's on, you're more than welcome to march with us. Just join them in and list. We'll tell you where we're meeting.
Yeah, look out for the Miners' Gala. There's nothing like it, believe me. It's extraordinary. And I would like to, so this has been recorded, so once TWT has finished the festival, it'll go up on, I don't know, somewhere, YouTube presumably, so you can look it up and use it. Could you just quickly, I don't mind who it is, Samantha, say where people can get the film, because the film is really good. Amber Films is a film political film co-op that's been going for years, decades even. But what's the film called again?
So the film's called Of Whole Heart Cometh Hope, which is a quote from a banner, and our website is www.womensbannergroup.org.uk. We've got a web shop there where you can get that. Yes.
Great, that's absolutely marvelous. Thank you so much. So thank you, everybody. And Sam, we're going to give Sam the last word from TWT. And if you are participating in the rest of the World Transformed Festival, have a great time. I'd just like to do a shout out for our own festival, which is www.tynedaletransform.org. The program's going up on Monday, but we've got a website. Have a look, see what we're trying to do in a Tory constituency, which is only populated by sheep. So we're teaching sheep sewing skills. So over to Sam. Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much. That was such a good session. Yeah, just a tiny bit of housekeeping, not really the final word, just some admin. Yeah, we've got, as I think someone just posted in the chat now, we've got the community forum. So if you want to carry on having discussions, we've set up a dedicated space on our community forum for this session. You should, hopefully, if you signed up via the website, you should be able to have also been given a link to how to join the community forum. It might be, if you're on Gmail, it might be in your promotions. If you're on Hotmail, it might be in your junk as well. But if you have any problems, then please just send an email over to info@theworldtransformed.org. Also, yeah, register for other events. We've still got a week and a half left worth of sessions. And so, yeah, go on to theworldtransformed.org to go and check out the rest of the program. And then lastly, but not leastly, actually mostly really, if you enjoyed this session and you'd like to help us sustain our work throughout the year, like beyond the festival, just in September, please go to theworldtransformed.org/support, and you can give as little as £1 a month as well. Thanks so much for this session. It was so good. Cheers, Penny. Cheers, Laura. Cheers, Samantha. And cheers, Lynn. That was class.
View the full TWT20 program and become a supporter today to help us deliver political education all year round at theworldtransformed.org.